I started JoJo Tea in 2011. And at that time I was a yoga instructor. Like you said, I was working at this Buddhist temple. I wanted to learn how to teach meditation. And tea was seen as such an important part of the meditative experience at this Buddhist temple. And I didn't know that there was such a connection between the Buddhist and Taoist conception of meditation and the Buddhist and Taoist practices of tea, but basically I really wanted to focus on being as accomplished of a meditator as I could, getting to the deepest stages of consciousness possible, right? But the tea was this silent friend that was just sitting with me throughout the entirety of it. And what really blew my mind about the way that they did tea at this temple was that usually in America, when we make tea, we take a little teaspoon of tea, we put it in a big pot, we let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we take out the leaves and we drink the water. And that's the tea experience, And there's an experience of tea that they call gongfu tea, Gongfu. And that word has a lot of different meanings, but the root of it, right, is you think of martial arts, kung fu, right? What kung fu actually means is the practice and application of any skill that is practiced with attention to detail and the goal of mastery. That's kung fu, So the practice of gongfu tea is, instead of using one little tablespoon of tea and a lot of water and letting it sit for 5 minutes, you use 3 tablespoons of tea, and you only use a half a cup of water. And instead of letting it sit for 5 minutes, you let it sit for a few breaths, and then you strain it. And then you pour it again, and then this time 4 breaths. And then you do it again, and this time 5 breaths. And then you do it again, and this time 6 breaths. So every time the teapot, the teapot that I use to drink tea at home is the size of a golf ball. It's tiny. But I know that when I brew tea out of that pot, I could brew the same tea 30 times, So even though the pot is the size of a golf ball, I can get a liter of tea out of it, And every sip is fresh and hot and freshly brewed, and which maximizes the aromatic output of the tea. It's so much of gongfu tea is about making the most delicious, most flavorful cup of tea possible. And it's the fact that it happens to integrate with meditation, then people want to layer all these different meanings about offerings to the Buddha and offerings to the spirit realm and it's bro, we're just trying to make tasty tea, because when the tea is tasty enough, it makes you want to contemplate the flavors, and the flavors sit on your breath. And what is meditation but the contemplation of the breath? So it's almost once the tea reaches a certain level, meditation becomes almost an unintended consequence of the tea drinking experience when it's brewed in this way. You know what I'm saying?
That's deep, man. And I kind of almost draw some parallels to that, and having sort of that level of awareness where you're really living in the moment, because I associate that sort of almost transcendental awareness to a high level of meditation, and for example, high performing athletes, they train and practice, and they work on their, whatever it is, whatever their sport is, and, break down to the finest details and analyze everything they're doing while they're in practice. But once you're in the performance, once you're in that game, there's no longer any, thoughts behind it in terms of all right, here I go, step 1, step 2, it's reflexes. It becomes instinct, right?
And that's where we build the endurance in that flow state. A really quick note that I think that you'll find fascinating is that there are not many things in the world that have been shown to synchronize both hemispheres of the brain, right? I'm obviously not a neuroscientist, so I'm not saying that that tea is some magic brain medicine, but I've seen studies that there are very few things in the world that can synchronize both hemispheres of the brain.
Mm.
And the only things that I've read of that can do that are meditation, yoga, tea, and high-level musical improvisation.
Hmm.
And
That's
those are
super
all like
interesting.
extreme examples of like those are all like flow state activities that the more conceptualization that's happening, the further you're getting from the truth of the execution. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's like if we can use tea brewing as a way to practice flow state, you know, that's like that's what I'm saying. Like so much of like when people ask me like what are the health benefits of tea, I can't be like, well, you get to further embody a flow state which synchronizes both hemispheres of the brain. I got to talk about like antioxidants and amino acids and that kind of shit,
Yeah.
which luckily tea happens to also have. But it's
Right.
like the real health benefit of tea is the esoteric, is like the ease and the support of the meditation, the caffeine and the L-theanine, you know, the caffeine stimulating and the L-theanine relaxing and helping to focus. You know, those are like the real juice, the real benefit of the tea, you know?